G'day guys, Jody here from President Water, and today I'm with young Pamela from South Regional TAFE. And we're doing a grow trial on tomatoes, and we've put a couple of Vortex devices in, one with a carbon filter in front of it to address the chlorine, the other one just by the Vortex device by itself, and then we've got a control bed down the end here running town water. What we're hoping to see is the difference it makes using the high energy water in yield. We've also wound back the amount of water we're using on these two beds with a controller as a water saving trial. So these are wound back probably 50%, would be my guess, is where they're at when you look at them visually. The soil beds, exactly the same media, exactly the same plants. You're going to water them go-go juice, but you put mulch and compost on top, just a little layer on top. Yep. And it's going to be an ongoing little experiment to see what yield increases we get. I'm fairly confident that the bed down here will do the best. It'll be out of these two, I'm guessing, through experience. I've got a fairly good idea that the Vortex water will make a big difference.
Hi, I'm Pamela from South Regional TAFE here in Bunbury. We are so excited that we're going to be doing a grow project using tomatoes. We've got San Manzano tomatoes and we have different watering devices, and the plan for this is to examine the difference with the different devices which Jody has allowed us to install in these three beds. A couple of aims. One is to see decrease in water consumption and also hopefully look at an increase in yield on the veggie gardens that have the water devices on them. I just want to run you through how we've set these up. We have 3 raised garden beds. These have been in the ground here for, I've been at TAFE 8 years and they were here before that, and they've had a number of years of various vegetable soils and additives to them. The last couple of years, however, we've been topping them up with a compost that we make here at TAFE using weeds in various green ways. The soil content of all 3 raised beds is the same. I've laid a compost on top, probably about 2 or 3 centimetres thick, and that's been mixed in as the tomatoes seedlings were planted. Then planted the tomato seedlings. You can see that they're running alternatively along the length of the bed because our plan is next week to install a trellis. This tomato species, the San Manzano, will get to about 1.5 to 2 metres high, which means they'll need to be staked. So that staking is going to happen next week. Also amongst the tomatoes, just for some companion planting, we've got some marigolds and some cornflowers, the ones that make the blue flowers. They all went in this morning, and then I've topped it with hoo-flung dung mulch, which is microbially active, and I intend to, over the next couple of weeks, feed it with go-go juice, which also activates the microbes in the soils. And here at TAFE, we're not using fertiliser or artificial fertilisers or processed fertilisers on any of our veggie beds.
Back at Southwest Regional TAFE with the trials of the little Vortex devices. The first one that's in the picture now has got the carbon filter on before the Vortex device, then the second one, just the Vortex device, and then plot 3, nothing. Now, the growth looks to be similar. However, in this middle bed, there's definitely more action than's happening at this end here. It's all anecdotal at this point in time. It'll come down to yield. The PW50 is doing its magic. We've pulled back the amount of water we're putting on these 2 beds. These 2 beds are running at about half the amount of water. Looking good, and the trial continues.
Here's our trial. It is the 22nd of November. Let's have a look at the tomatoes, which are hidden. The flowers we put in have gone mental. I actually did thin some yesterday, but you can't tell. So this is the bed with the Vortex generator and the filter. This is the one with just the generator. It's just looking absolutely cranking. And this one over here is the one with just town water, which, if you didn't know, you'd say they look great, but when you compare them, the leaves are a little bit limier and not quite as chubby and juicy. It is the 31st of December, and the difference between the 3 plots is super noticeable. So let's have a look. I haven't picked anything yet, and we haven't looked at yields or weighed anything, but we're just looking primarily at the difference in how robust the plants are between the 3 beds. So this is the first bed we're looking at. This is the bed that's just town water. It's got no Vortex generator and no filter. And this is the tomato bushes. You can see the companion planting plants are still here. We've got, I think this is the mustard and some marigolds. And it's got heaps and heaps of tomatoes. as you can see on it. Some ripe ones, which I'll pick in a minute once we're finished filming. Alright, so this is this bed. The biggest difference I can see is the plants themselves. The stems are skinnier, and this bed of tomato plants, remember there was only 4 tomato plants on each bed. This bed of tomato plants was quicker to produce flowers, quicker to produce fruit, the tomatoes, and the tomatoes have ripened. It's almost like it had a much shorter window in order to get the tomatoes out and ready for harvest. Moving on to the next one. This is the bed that just has the Vortex generator, and look, I don't know if height's a thing because they're sort of loosely staked. This also has heaps and heaps of tomatoes on it. Now remember, all beds have had the same treatment. So we've got some ripe tomatoes going on here. We've got bunches and bunches of green ones. Once again, lots of companion plants. We've got some tucked down here, so I'm going to have a really good look. A couple of weeks ago, so probably 3 weeks ago, I put some sifted compost on each of the beds and watered it in with some go-go juice. So they've all had exactly the same treatments, but to me, and looking at it in true life, I can see that the stems of the tomato plants are more robust and stronger on this bed here. This is the bed with just the Vortex generator. Alright, moving over to the third bed, and this has the Vortex generator and the water filter. There's a remarkable difference in the colour of the plants, of the leaves. They're far more green. The chunkiness of the stems of the tomatoes, and the actual size of the tomato plants themselves. This bed was much slower to make fruit, and it's got some ripe ones, as you can see, and it also has a lot of developing plants. Interestingly enough, this bed had blossom end rot. Oh, here it is, to show you. Where is it? Blossom end rot, which is a calcium deficiency in the tomatoes. Now, the other 2 beds didn't appear to have any. We've got a bit more here. And it was mostly up this end, mostly this tomato plant on this end of the bed. So 2 weeks ago, I gave them a foliar calcium application using a product called Zeolite, and it's supposed to remedy the blossom end rot, which is, like I said, a calcium deficiency. So we've got a bit of that going on in this bed. My guess would be, because of the vigorous growth on this bed, that it needed, its nutrient uptake was obviously higher, and it probably needed more regular fertiliser applications.
Here we are back at Southwest Regional TAFE in sunny Bunbury, WA, and I'm with the beautiful Pamela. Late September last year, we started a grow trial just to see how much of a difference Vortex generators would make, and so we're using city water, which is chlorinated, of course, and so there's one control bed. So there's 3 beds with each had 4 San Marzano tomato plants in them.
Yeah, that's right.
One bed's only got town water. One bed had just the Vortex generator, the PW50, little plastic ones, and then we put a filter on before, on the last bed, a filter with a Vortex device, and the results have been
absolutely mind-blowing. I thought that there would be a significant difference, but the actual difference between the 3 beds has been mind-blowing for me. I've had so many people comment and go, oh my goodness, where can I buy one of these things? We're probably looking at close to a 300% increase in yield with the bed with the filter and the Vortex generator compared to the other 2. And as Jodie explained to me earlier, having the filter that takes out the chlorine or out of the chlorinated water, which would then go on to kill a lot of the soil microbiology, is what we imagine is the biggest reason for that difference.
Yeah, so there's a significant difference between, you were telling me, between the second bed that had the Vortex device and the first bed which had
Just town water, our beautiful Bunbury
and
town
I
water.
think it's, we'll do the numbers later, we'll put them in the
Yeah.
in the bits and pieces, but I think it's round about 25% better, which is significant, right?
Yep.
However, on this bed at the end,
We had, almost a 300% increase
wow.
compared to the other two, which was just mind-blowing as far as I'm concerned.
So Pamela,
We got to make lots of sauce.
be fair to say that Pamela might have been a little bit of a skeptic before we
Oh, and here's the thing, I'm open to it.
Yep.
I expected there to be a difference. I just didn't expect it to be that significant. I thought there might have been a few kilos between it, but just off the top of my head, we've had over 40 kilos of tomatoes picked from just this one bed, compared to, I think it was 17 and 12 or thereabouts respectively. So that in itself
Yeah, and
just speaks volumes about
what's happening when you put high energy water, and it's just like the water can do more work when it's got more energy, and that's what Vortex generators do.
And we didn't fertilise.
No.
We didn't put any synthetic fertilisers on any of the beds, so this is purely soil microbiology that's going on here. None of the NPK, none of the stuff you get from the big green sheds or any of those places. So it's all happening within the soil.
Yeah, which is exciting.
Which is awesome. It's super awesome. It's exactly what we teach here, and that just shows it supports all that.
Yeah, and even the difference in the quality of fruit, which you'll see in some of the photos, that at the size and the colour, was significant.
Significant.
So, next year we'll probably tighten up the parameters and put some more bits and pieces in there.
I think knowing what we know now, so doing this trial just to see what happened and where the variables that were, unforeseen or introduced as it was going along happened, but also the results. And I think just keeping up, and I think I said in a previous video, keeping up with the calcium in the soil and having the microbes available that release that calcium back to the plants was something I didn't anticipate because of the higher growth rates on this bed with both devices on it, which ended up causing a bit of blossom end rot, which is this constriction at the end of the tomato that you see here. Perfectly edible, still it's just a deformity which they wouldn't sell in the shops if you were doing this on a commercial scale. But knowing that, and now I would probably look at treating the soil or investigating what needs to be done to the soil on a more regular basis to support the growth, the rapid growth of these plants.
Yeah.
So it was good, like just doing the trials to see, doing minimal stuff to see exactly what happened.
First year out.
First year out.
So super exciting, guys. If you want a better crop,
oh my goodness, what a difference.
If you want a better crop from your veggie gardens, it's not a super expensive spend. The Vortex devices last forever.
They don't take up a lot of room. They're just put in line with the irrigation pipe on the side of the bed. You can barely even see it. And
the filters themselves, they're reasonably well priced. So, if you're a keen gardener and you want great veggies or even flowers, and even for your lawns and bits and pieces, if you want to grow stuff great and you disable the chlorine in the water and you energise that water, you get rainwater-like results from groundwater. So
thank you. Thanks
thanks
for this. We're looking forward to doing it again next year, just to see,
see what we can change.
And how much better we can make it.
Awesome. But I'd just like to say thanks to everybody here that's been at the TAFE, that's been a part of the trial, and onwards and upwards. Keep vortexing.
Keep
See you later.